is Warhawk Beyond 2040, bringing to you another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. And June 27th, 2011 marks 14 years ago that history was made on Raw when CM Punk delivered his legendary pipe bomb and kicked off a run that a lot of fans fondly refer to as the Summer of Punk. And for today's special edition, I am going to be discussing the success and failures of the Summer of Punk from June 2011 to August 2011. So, 2011 for me was a year that I don't really look back on with fond memories for a lot of reasons. The first main reason was, of course, WWE had fully embraced the entire PG format. Shows were becoming more and more watered down. Promos and content were more handcuffed and restricted. Wrestlers weren't really allowed to be the best versions of themselves. And television on a whole just became incredibly stupid. Guys like Shawn Michaels was long retired. Triple H was becoming more of a behind the scenes guy, and his time in the ring was really starting to wind down. Undertaker had pretty much gone into semi retirement and had become a once a year wrestler and only competing at WrestleMania. And John Cena was still very much the top guy and the face of the company, but his act was becoming beyond stale and everything was just becoming really predictable. And no matter who would try to become the top guy, it was still all about John Cena. Everybody else pretty much took a backseat to him. And as if 2011 couldn't get any more worse, Edge was forced to retire in his 30s due to a neck injury and forfeited the world title after WrestleMania 27. So 2011 for me was probably one of the worst years ever for me as a wrestling fan. There were a couple of things that were going on that weren't too bad, but by and large, for me, WWE in 2011 was just unwatchable beyond words. But there was one person who came along at a time when we really needed something to shake things up. And that was, of course, CM Punk. Now, CM Punk was not really what you would call a top guy. I mean, he was in his own way, but he wasn't on the same level as John Cena or Randy Orton. He was kind of more like in the background, and he would occasionally have little main event stints, and he would mix it up with guys like Jeff Hardy and The Undertaker. But he was never really looked at as a top guy. He didn't really get a big push like some of the others. He was just there as more like a filler guy, someone to beat up, and then he would go off again. But he did do some good work, and he done some brilliant work with the Straight Edge Society. And then he would get moved to Raw, and he would take over the Nexus, thus dubbing it the New Nexus after they got rid of Wade Barrett. But at the same time, I never really looked at CM Punk as, yeah, this guy could really be a top guy. I mean, I always wanted him to be a top guy, but he was just never really booked that way. As I said, he would have occasional little runs where he could be a top guy, but then it wouldn't go anywhere after. But by the time we got to June 2011, business was really bad, television was unwatchable, and everything about it was just not fun anymore. But CM Punk made an announcement that would really shake WWE to its core. He would announce that his contract was expiring and that he was going to be leaving. So that made things very interesting. But prior to that, he was announced as the number one contender for the WWE title against John Cena. He would interfere in John Cena's match against R-Truth, which was a table match, and CM Punk sitting like a native on the top of the stage with the mic in hand and kick off a promo that would not only change the course of CM Punk's career forever, but ultimately the company as a whole. And he would kick off his promo by saying, I have a lot of things I really want to get off my chest. And you knew when someone says something like that, this isn't going to be your typical wrestling promo. This is going to be different. And CM Punk would go into this huge rant about the business. He would take shots at The Rock and make some really good points about it's embarrassing that The Rock is in the main events of WrestleMania next year and I'm not, and it makes me sick to my stomach. And you know who else got sick of all of this? Brock Lesnar, and he split, and he would go on to shoot at John Cena, saying, I do like you, John. In fact, I like you better than a lot of the guys in the back, but I hate the idea that you're the best. I'm the best in the world. I'm barely on TV. I'm barely promoted. He really let it rip. And he even took shots at the McMahons, saying that maybe, just maybe, this company would be better when Vince McMahon is dead. But that's not going to happen because his whole family and his stupid son in law, Triple H, and his doofus daughter are going to take over WWE. So you knew that this was not going to be your ordinary wrestling promo. And for me, around that time, CM Punk made WWE fun to watch again. He made it edgy. It was still PG, but it was still very edgy. It wasn't all silly and soft like it was earlier in the year. I wouldn't really say it was Attitude Era level, but it was kind of like very close to that. But maybe not as outrageous, but it was a bit more edgier. And this was something that was desperately missing from WWE TV. So this was all part of the build-up to CM Punk's match against John Cena at Money in the Bank 2011 in his hometown of Chicago. And CM Punk made this guarantee that if I win the WWE title, I'm leaving with it. I might even go back to Ring of Honor. I may even go back to New Japan. Who knows? But one thing is for sure, that date at that pay-per-view is my last day with WWE, and I'm leaving with the title, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop me. So it really made things interesting for all. So Punk's fed up of things, he's leaving, and he's taking the title with him. So brilliant build up. Punk was really coming into his own. You could really see his star was starting to shine, and Punk and Cena really work well together. And I feel that, as great as an opponent Randy Orton is for John Cena, I feel their rivalry is a little bit overrated. But I thought the feud with Punk was so much better because they're the polar opposites. But it's just something about those two on the mic and even in the ring as well. They really bring out the best in each other. And I think with Punk, what it is about him that makes him a better opponent for John Cena than Randy Orton is Punk pushes Cena to be better. And Punk's not a slouch. He's not going to sit by and do all the work. He expects you to put all your best into the work. He's looking at it like, well, I'm going to do this, but you're going to put your work into it as well. I'm not going to do all this on my own. So I'm not carrying you. I expect you to hold up your end of the bargain. And their chemistry just really worked really well. And the promo work between these two was tremendous. And this period from June to August, I can see why fans refer to it as the summer of punk because this was the period in the summertime that CM Punk rose to the occasion, which is why it's called the summer of punk because he really became the guy that we would come to know, really. So at Money in the Bank 2011, they had a fantastic match. Chicago 100% behind CM Punk, the hometown boy, and Cena was just basically in enemy territory. It was pretty much like ECW 2006. Although I think 2006, the fans were ready to murder John Cena at that event, but Chicago fans had no love for Cena whatsoever, and Punk would win the WWE title, run through the crowd, blow Vince McMahon a kiss, and he was gone. And for the next few weeks, oh, Punk's really gone. So they would set up a tournament. John Cena would win, yawn, and then Punk would come out with his WWE title. And then they did this whole scenario of who's the real champion? Is it CM Punk or is it John Cena? Now, the only failure I would say, and there's a couple here which I'll get into in a moment, was even though CM Punk had the title and he was, in my eyes anyway, the better man, they were still pushing John Cena. He was still getting rammed down our throats. So, SummerSlam 2011, the rematch was made. It was going to be CM Punk versus John Cena with Triple H as the special guest referee. Now, this was another takeaway for me. Triple H had to insert himself into this angle. There was no need to have Triple H involved. We should have just had CM Punk versus John Cena when it becomes undisputed WWE champion. But it is what it is. Still a fantastic match. Maybe not as good as Money in the Bank, but it was still very enjoyable. And CM Punk was able to defeat John Cena and become the undisputed WWE champion. And then Kevin Nash would come through the crowd, and this was the first time we had seen Nash officially since the Royal Rumble 2011. He came through the crowd, delivered a jackknife powerbomb to CM Punk, and then Alberto Del Rio was able to sneak in through the back door, cash in his Money in the Bank contract, and win the WWE title. So just as hot as the summer of Punk started with his legendary pipe bomb, it was brought to a crashing halt when Kevin Nash came in and cost CM Punk the WWE title. And this was where things really started to go very bizarre because Punk was out of the title picture and was more or less taking a backseat to Triple H and Kevin Nash. A CM Punk versus Kevin Nash match never became a reality. Just the whole thing was a weird setup. But aside from all of that weird nonsense, it doesn't take away from the fact that the summer of Punk was where CM Punk was really at his hottest and he was able to make a lot of history in such a short time. But this was just merely a warm up for what CM Punk would go on to do for the next 434 days, which will be discussed for another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. So, in terms of the success and failures of the Summer of Punk, by and large, overall, I'm going to say this was a complete success. I thought CM Punk's promo really did a good job in getting everyone to take notice of him. It got everyone talking again. It created a buzz that we haven't really had in quite some time. And his promo really helped make WWE TV more fun to watch again. It brought a level of edginess that we haven't really had in quite a while. And even though WWE hadn't really changed its format, it was still very much PG, but I would say it kind of felt more like a PG-13 show. It was still PG, but still a little bit on the edgier side. And Punk really stood out to me during that time, whereas everybody else was very silly and watered down and restricted. Punk was like, nope, we're not going to have that with me. I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to say what I want when I want, to who I want, and I don't care if you like it or not. And he definitely got a lot of fans behind him, and he became really popular. So, in a way, the pipe bomb really helped make CM Punk into a huge star and kicking off what we all call the summer of Punk. I would have preferred if Nash didn't stick his nose in Punk's business. Maybe Punk could have kept the title for a bit longer, but I suppose everything happens for a reason. Punk would ultimately go on to get the last laugh before 2011 closed out. But I would say the summer of Punk was a lot of fun, and it was the only good thing that I can remember about 2011 that was good, aside from Triple H versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 27. But the rest of the year was not really that good. But CM Punk's promo and his little run he had that summer definitely made 2011 a bit more bearable, shall we say. So, anyway, that's going to be it from me. I'm going to wrap this up now. What did you guys think of the summer of Punk? Did you enjoy it? What was your favourite promo during that time? Was it the build up to Money in the Bank 2011 pay per view, CM Punk's pipe bomb, his promo work with John Cena? What was your favourite match from that time? The Money in the Bank 2011 match or the SummerSlam 2011 match? And do you think that maybe Punk could have held the title maybe for a little bit longer? And do you think the Summer of Punk helped make CM Punk into the big name that we all know now? You know what to do, guys. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below, and I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Wrestling Discussion Series. So until then, take care, everybody, and stay safe. And once again, as always, much appreciated. Thanks for listening.